Okay, so this is week 2. What you'll learn in your Zybook the most is a couple of things. We're going to talk a little bit about a table, which is really just kind of a collection of data. Tables are organized by columns and rows. So think of a spreadsheet, right? A spreadsheet has columns and rows. A column is a set of data values that have the same data type. So unlike a spreadsheet where you can have different rows having different types of value, in a database table, all of the values in a column have to have the same data type. We'll talk about data types in a minute. And then you have a row, which is a set of data. So they're all related to one another. So it's a row of data. So far you've created a table with just one column, and then you added a second. But you didn't add any rows, and that's what we're going to do today in this for week 2. So data types. There are different data systems. Database systems support different data types, and here's just a few of them. Integers. They are whole numbers, right? They can be positive or negative, but they're whole numbers like 1, 10, 13, 20, or they can be decimal, which are fractional values, and they could have different numbers of digits after the decimal point. So it could be like 5.5, 7.51, 81.24, different numbers of digits. It can also be character. But when I talk about character, don't think about it as just one character. Think about it as a string. So one to many characters. They can be defined as char, C-H-A-R, which is a single fixed length. So you might have char 10, which means that you expect all of the data to be 10 characters long. Or they can be varchar, for variable char, which would have a variable length up to a maximum. So you might define it as varchar 50, which means that it can have up to 50 characters. You also have date and time data types, and then also binary to store images. So I want to show a little bit of an example of what you are going to do this week in your lab activity. What I'm going to do is create a table called student, and I'm going to insert a couple of records, and then I'm going to select from that table. In your activity, you're going to do employees and branches, so it's not exactly the same, but I'm just trying to give you a little bit of an example of how you do this. So you're going to go back to Codio. You're going to go over to the terminal. You're going to type in MySQL. And then you're going to use your, first of all, you can do show databases. So now I've got my database that I created in week 1 called Myers. So I want to use that database to be able to create a table. So I'm going to use Myers. So now it says database changed. I am now connected to the Myers database, and I want to create a table within the database. So remember, a database could have multiple tables. So I'm going to create a table called student. And now I'm going to define each field that's going to be in that table and its corresponding data type. So I'm going to have one called student ID. That's going to be the column name, and its data type is going to be small int. So it's going to be an integer number, a whole number, either positive or negative. And then the next one is going to be first name, and it's going to be a varchar. So it's going to be variable character. It can hold up to 40 characters. And then I'm going to have last name, and it's going to be a varchar 60, which means it can have up to 60 characters. And then I'm going to have one called status, and it's going to be a varchar 10, which means that it can have 10 characters. And then I'm going to close that, and that is all I'm going to do. Have a table in there. I already had a table in here called student, so I've gotten rid of that table, and I've now ran my create table command, and you'll see that it says OK. So now I'm going to describe the table. Student. So these are the columns or fields that I added. Student ID, first name, last name, status, and then the data type for each one of them. So now I have a table defined, and now I want to insert some records into that table. And it's insert into, what is the table name? And then you're going to put in each of the columns that you want to add data to. So in my case, I want to add data to each of them. But you don't have to have all of the columns in your table in the insert statement. You could have just insert into student, student ID, first name, last name. You don't have to add a record that has a piece of data in every single column, but for now we're going to. So it's always insert into, and then the columns that you want to insert into, and then the values, and then the values have to correspond with the columns. So what value do I want to put in for the student ID? I want it to be 1001. For the student name, I want it to be Mickey. For the last name, I want it to be Mouse. And the status, I want it to be active. So now you can think about 101 matches up with student ID. Mickey matches up with first name. Mouse matches up with last name. And active matches up with status. Now, there is a problem with this, but I'm going to go ahead and run it and let you see what the problem is so that I can fix it. So I put in insert into student, but notice that student isn't the name of the table, it's actually student with a capital S. So MySQL is very specific about this. So you have to make sure that you have the table names and the column names correct. They have to be correctly capitalized. So I'm going to do insert into capital student name, student ID, first name, last name, status, values, 1001, Mickey, Mouse, and active. Oops, forgot the semicolon at the end. So I actually accidentally had a mistake here in this row. I forgot a single quote out here. That's why these extra lines were here. So I ended up finishing it with a single quote and a parenthesis. So that was the reason why that one didn't work correctly. But let's do a select now. So now I want to see the row that I added. So I'm going to do select star from student. And you'll see that there is, in fact, a row there. It has a little extra data in it because I messed up that last column. But now I'm going to do another insert. So we're going to do insert into student, student ID, first name, last name, status, and then values 1002, Mini, Mouse, and active. I got the correct single quote out there this time. So now this time I will insert the record correctly. So now I have two rows. I'm going to do one more. Student ID, first name, last name, status, my value is 1003. Yuki, there's a dog, and now active. So now I have an insert into student. I have a student ID, first name, last name, status. I have values for each one of those. And I'm going to run that statement. And now I'm going to check to see how many rows how many rows are in my table. Select star from student. We now see that there are 3 rows. If I want to only see the student ID, the first name, and the last name, I would do select student ID, first name, last name from student. You see I only get the student ID, the first name, and the last name. I do not get the active. If I do a select star, I get all of the columns and all of the rows. We'll eventually add criteria so we don't get all of the rows. But that's how you will want to do all of your creating your table and inserting records and selecting from your tables this week as part of your lab. Hopefully this gives you a good start and a good idea, but as in addition to the existing content for the week. And then after the lab is due, then I will post a video of me creating the lab. Hopefully this helps.